Hello, and welcome to Tuesday with Lloyd. My name is Enya, Regional Director and Risk Management Practice Leader for Lloyd's US. Launched last September, Tuesday with Lloyd has served as a bridge and a dialogue between London market and our stakeholders in Americas region. In less than 3 months, we held 9 sessions. Tuesday with Lloyd. My name is Enya, Regional Director and Risk Management Practice Leader for Lloyd's US. Launched last September, Tuesday with Lloyd's has served as a dialogue between Lloyd's market and our stakeholders in the Americas region. In less than 3 months, we have held 9 sessions covering a broad range of topics, including fresh perspective on Lloyd's priorities, class of business discussions, and new risk solutions. These sessions have been well received, averaging 350 attendees per session and reaching a combined total of 3,300 stakeholders in Americas. As we kick off the new year and continue the program, we sincerely welcome your input. Our primary goal is to assist you in staying connected with Lloyd's market leaders and field experts in our market. This year's program will continue sessions focused on class of business and thought leadership. In addition, we have added a new monthly series called Syndicate Showcase. Each month, we'll invite senior leaders from a Lloyd's syndicate and ask them to share their perspective and have a dialogue with the audience. So today is my great pleasure to present to you Syndicate Showcase featuring Aegis London, Syndicate 1225. We're very pleased to be joined by its leadership team as follows: David Croom-Johnson, CEO, Alex Powell, Chief Underwriting Officer, and Nigel Roberts, Head of Distribution. Moderating this session is Watkins, Regional Director and President of Lloyd's Americas. Before we start, a few housekeeping items. Number one, to help us better serve you, we'd love to have a sense of who you are. So please take a moment to answer the poll question in front of you. Second, we strongly recommend you to ask questions throughout the session. Instead of asking questions in chat box, we ask you please use the Q&A tool, which will make it easier for us to stay organized. Today's session is being recorded and streamed live on Lloyd's YouTube channel, so please share with any colleague who are unable to join us today. Without further ado, please welcome Watkins. Hank, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Enya, very much. Thank you also to all of the attendees in the audience. We're thrilled to have you with us today, and especially proud and happy to be here with our friends from Aegis Syndicate 1225 in London. For those of you who don't know, Aegis stands for Associated Electric and Gas Insurance Services. They're based in New Jersey, headquartered there, but their Syndicate 1225 in London, also referred to as Aegis London, is one of the top performing syndicates at Lloyd's and has been for the past 10 years. So we're very happy to have their leadership team here with us for the next 55 minutes or so to talk through a number of topics related to their business, primarily in the US, although they do operate in Canada as well as in Mexico, primarily as a reinsurer in Mexico, and they're licensed in all Canadian provinces and territories. But for the US audience, they are an E&S writer throughout our 53 or 4 jurisdictions. And we've got a lot of interesting topics to cover with them today. So I'll kick it off with my first question to David Croom-Johnson. David, give us an overview, if you will, of Aegis London, and we'll get more into the underwriting plans as we go forward. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Hank, and welcome everybody from a cold, wet, and rather miserable UK. And I believe you've had a lot of snowstorms on the East Coast today. But let me give you just a little bit of background to Aegis London. So as Hank says, we are a subsidiary of a US gas and electric utility mutual. Aegis was actually formed in the 1970s in a sort of casualty crisis for the power and electric utility industry, and they couldn't buy casualty insurance at that point. And it's evolved to really deliver products and services to that industry across North America. And in the sort of late 90s, the Aegis membership was actually spreading its wings and purchasing assets across the globe. And Aegis, as its insurer, wished to support their members by availing themselves with insurances in diverse countries across the globe. And so it formed a Lloyd syndicate, and they did that because Lloyd's obviously has licenses to provide specialty insurance across, I think, nearly 200 countries across the globe. And so therefore it opened its doors in 1999 to support its members. But it quickly evolved actually to become a more broad-based and balanced insurance business at Lloyd's, writing other classes of business. And over the years, it's really evolved into a diversification play for its US mutual, and writes 23 classes of insurance across a broad base of specialty insurance at Lloyd's, from accident health insurance, through property classes, through casualty classes, through very specialist classes like terrorism and cyber and political risks insurance. It's the 12th largest insurer at Lloyd's. We're not overly concerned about being the largest syndicate in the room, but we do want to ensure that we get our products and our services across to our customer base in the most efficient way. As Hank kindly says, we've been one of the best performing syndicates at Lloyd's. That's a good thing for us because it ensures that we can continue to deliver security to you, our policyholders, and our customer base. Our strategy is very much focused around the SME market, and it has a particular emphasis on the US and on Canada. And we have built up strong relationships across retail brokers, wholesale brokers in the US, MGAs and cover holders across North America. So all of you and the audience are very much our target audience, and we'd love to be able to use this hour so you can learn a little bit more about us. Hank.
Thank you, David. And that's a good point you bring up. There are many roads into Lloyd's. There are a lot of ways to access the market. Lloyd's is a broker market, so whether a retail broker brings an ultimate customer into the market via a cover holder in the US or a wholesale broker in the US or even a London wholesale broker in London, there are a lot of ways to access the London market. We're going to talk about Opal, which is a digital platform established by Aegis about 4 years ago in a few minutes, just to give you another sense of an alternate way into the Lloyd's market. But thank you for that, David. Do you want to, you've talked about your profitability. That certainly distinguishes you from part of the Lloyd's market, which is about 90 syndicates going into 2021. So there's a vast array of capacity and appetites. A lot of them are, of course, focused on the US and Canada. Do you want to share some of your thoughts on what distinguishes Aegis from the rest of the market?
It may be very simple for me to say it, but what distinguishes us is always our people, and really it's the desire of our people to strive to be better at what they do, and in their desire to be at the forefront of delivering the products that people want to buy. And I think for us, that's important. We're sort of innovative in our thinking, but we have a very, very empowering culture at our company, which being privately owned, it means that we can allow our underwriters to deliver the products that we know that there's a demand for, that we know that they sell, and we know that for us that they're profitable. And also, I think being privately owned by a knowledgeable parent that understands insurance is very important to us. So we don't have to chase quarterly earnings and things like that. And that gives us a longer term view of life, and we can set longer term strategies in what we do. And I think that allows us to I'm going to say, build a utopian insurance company.
And that brings me to another reminder for the audience. Many of you will know the structure of Lloyd's capital. Perhaps some of you don't know that it does come from a wide variety of sources. In the case of Aegis, of course, a wholly owned subsidiary, there are a number of other syndicates that are capitalized by pension funds, private equity firms, owned partially by insurance companies, a wide range. And there's still some individual names out there who on a limited liability basis are supporting Lloyd's syndicates through their investments every year. So it's really, and then we have an ILS vehicle that's recently been announced to allow some alternative capital in there. So very, very interesting array of providers there, but Aegis, that specifically designates where your investment capital comes from. So thank you, David, for that. I'm going to come back to you a little bit later with a few of those CEO only can answer questions, like what keeps you up at night. But I'll in the meantime, go over to Alex Powell, Chief Underwriting Officer at Aegis, to get a little sense of what your appetite is in 2021. We know that your business planning process at Lloyd's went very smoothly last fall. You're a light touch syndicate, which is a very good thing. And you've got some significant growth plans in the US and perhaps more broadly globally going into 2021. So Alex, we'd love to hear about that. Thank you.
Thanks, Hank, and thanks for the opportunity this afternoon to speak to your audience. Yes, as you mentioned, we had a smooth passage through the Lloyd's planning process, thanks in large part to the light touch status that we have. And actually, that's a key part of why we are now positioned for growth in 2021. We've been pursuing a strategy of disciplined, profitable growth since 2015. And the key emphasis that the discipline and the profit come before the growth. So we are growing in 2021. I think by our estimation, we're growing around twice the rate that the Lloyd's market is growing. So we're just north of 25% growth as a syndicate overall. One of the key characteristics of that is that we haven't had to exit any lines of business. I think everybody is aware that over the last couple of years that the management of the underwriting at Lloyd's has seen some of that. We haven't had to do that at Aegis. So we've stuck in every line of business that we've been in. And as David pointed out, we're into some 23 different lines of business. So as far as I can see, the only constraints to our growth are our own abilities to execute a realistic and achievable plan. And hopefully that delivers consistency and continuity for our existing and our future customers.
Are you able to give us a sense of the types of business that particularly interest you in the US this year? We can't get into specifics. And again, I would remind everyone that the brokers ultimately will be the right channel to go through to specifically talk about risks. But from a broad perspective, we love to hear what the appetites are on the US.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, it's probably worth saying, Hank, that the syndicate is very much an insurance syndicate. I think a lot of people recognize that Lloyd's is a big reinsurance market. That's something that Aegis doesn't really get involved with. So we're very much a primary insurer. And unsurprisingly, we are very much heavily involved in the main property and casualty lines. I mean, I used to wield a pen in the property space until I took over in my current role. And that is an area both in the open market property, the facultative business, and also in the delegated business, where we are growing significantly, particularly with an emphasis in North America for 2021. If you looked at our next biggest segment, it's our casualty lines, North American GL and some professional lines, some E&O. That is growing significantly. And then a quick whistle-stop tour. We do, as David said, we do things like terror, specie, A&H, cargo hull property. They're all growing. But really the lines, the main P&C lines is where we see the most scale and the most opportunity in 2021. By and large, we're a primary writer. So our risk profile is such that we tend not to deploy significant risk lines. We like to be first dollar, and more often than not, we like to be less than first dollar, so first cent. And I think you've hinted that we have a digital offering in the shape of Opal, and something that David rounded on. Very much a focus on SME and very much a focus on simple products. And that is what Opal is really, really designed to deliver great access to, is the simple products that we have.
Thank you, Alex. And I did misspeak earlier about your reinsurance appetite in Mexico. So anybody in Mexico who all of a sudden thinks they have a new market, disregard that, please. But you did also reference that you prefer to be at the front of a subscription arrangement. Many in the audience, of course, who've worked with Lloyd's for years know that subscription model has worked brilliantly for the market for centuries. And some syndicates prefer playing right up front. Others prefer playing in a capacity area. Some prefer both, or will do both. So thanks for that specification. And we can get into Opal a little bit more when we get on to Nigel in a second. But first, let me go back to David Croom-Johnson and ask that question that we all have to ask: what keeps you up at night as a CEO? And maybe part of that would include some of the biggest challenges you're facing at Aegis in 2021, coming off a tragic year, of course, for so many people globally that we are still all living through, and very hopeful about seeing healthier times in the not too distant future. But that leaves our industry in a very interesting place. We've been extremely resilient, not without its challenges, though. So we'd love to hear from you, David, what those are to you and Aegis.
Yeah, I think so. Firstly, I think it would go without saying. I think every CEO, it's their primary thing that keeps them awake at night is making sure that we're looking after our employees, and we are at Aegis particularly good at caring for the needs and wants of our employees during a pandemic, and making sure that they're there, ready and able, and to serve our customers and our brokers and our cover holders. So the normal thing a CEO would say when you say what keeps him awake at night is something to do with wildfires or hurricanes or whatever. That's not the case with us at Aegis. If we haven't built the right business models for our business, then whereas there's always risks out there for insurers, if we haven't built our models and bought our reinsurances appropriately, then we shouldn't be here. What keeps me awake at night is the fear of missing out. There are fantastic opportunities ahead for us at the moment, and I want to make sure that we line up our business, and Alex has got the tools in place to be able to deliver that growth and be able to be the market, the go-to market for products that are there for the SME carriers across North America. So complacency, I don't want to be complacent. I don't want us to believe that Aegis has found a good formula. Our core value of Aegis London is striving to be better. And we want to continue with that and strive to deliver what the products that we know people want to buy. And certainly I don't want to have regrets. I don't want to look back in a year or two's time and thought, God, if only I'd done what I should have done in 2021. I don't want that. I think the challenges ahead of for us are wonderful challenges. Actually, you know, it's exploring the art of the possible. It's getting those products to the market in the most efficient way, and Nigel's going to talk to that in a moment. And it's making sure we've modernized our company and we're ready and able and willing to look at digitalization and what digitalization can bring for advantages to all of us in the way that we deliver our products to market. So those are a few of those, Hank, those things that I see out there. But if you look at North America, you know, it is one of Lloyd's great untapped markets. You know, the opportunities for Lloyd's are endless there.
Thank you, David. We couldn't agree more. And that's a perfect segue to Nigel. Nigel Roberts is head of distribution of Aegis London, and he was quoted earlier this year in Insurance Day as saying that 2021 brings us once-in-a-generation opportunities, clearly off of a year that focused the industry on the importance of efficiency, that moved most of the London market very quickly into an electronic transaction format that they had talked about for years, perhaps not yet achieved. So all that's behind us. Nigel, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on the opportunities that the Aegis brings to all the distribution partners out there in the meeting today.
Thanks, Hank. And just to echo what Alex and David had said, it's great to be on this call today, and thank you very much, everyone, for giving up some time to listen to us. Yeah, the size of the opportunity is intriguing. I was on a call with Lloyd's sometime before Christmas, and proudly Hank and his team were saying how Lloyd's have got by far and away the largest share of the E&S market in the United States, at some 22%. And these are impressive numbers, and the number two is a very distant second. What that says to me, though, is that there is 78% of the E&S market in the United States that Lloyd's doesn't have, and there is the size of the opportunity. So that's the first thing that hits me square between the eyes. The other thing then is what's happened to us in the past 10 months, and I would frame it thus. I think we've seen 10 years of change in 10 months, 10 years of changing the way in which we work in the past 10 months. I'd never have thought that I'd be sitting here at my house. I live in Scotland. I'd never thought I'd be sitting talking to several hundred people in the United States about Aegis's distribution strategy, sitting in my bedroom in the wilds of rural Perthshire. So there is the art of the possible, something I couldn't possibly have imagined 10 months ago. So the world is a very changed place. So what I think we need to be doing with this opportunity is offering choice to get out to that 78% of the E&S market that Lloyd's doesn't have, and distributing our products as cost effectively and efficiently as we possibly can. And I think we've learned over the past 10 months that that is now doable. I would describe our attitude to that as utterly agnostic. We want customers to choose how they come to us. We have the vast majority of our business comes through London brokers. They serve us incredibly well. There is some business out there that possibly is not cost effective for them to handle. But if through technology we can make it more cost effective, then everyone can win. So what I hope the next 12, 24 months brings is huge collaboration between us and our broking partners, wherever they may be, to sit down and work better, more cost-effective ways of getting our products to more people so that we all take advantage of this opportunity that's sitting in front of us now.
And yes, and Opal again was designed to do just that. That vast swath of SME business in the U.S. market that perhaps just stays in the U.S. market because people had thought getting to London was too complicated. That's one of several opportunities they have.
Yes, and Opal is the OPAL, very simple acronym, stands for Online Platform for Aegis London. We believe in being very cool and trendy with these things. And it's done since its inception about 4 years ago. It really went live in anger about 4 years ago. There have been 28,000 bound policies through it. Currently, annualized, it does about $60 million worth of premium. There are just over 9,000 live risks on the system at the moment. It's got breadth, it's got scope, and we know it works. And as time goes by, that business is only going to go one way. My hope in all of this is that what it will do is it will future-proof all our businesses, not just us at Lloyd's, but wholesale brokers, MGAs, retail brokers. As time goes by and technology giants move into the insurance space, which they are doing and will continue to do, they will drive cost out of the way business is done. And so they will be able to afford to charge much cheaper prices than are charged hitherto. We have to, as an industry, work out ways of getting our products to clients more cost effectively. Otherwise, our businesses will have no future. Whether you're an underwriter or a broker or an MGA or whatever you are, you won't have a future because we've got to do it more cheaply. There's too much frictional cost in our business. OPAL paves the way. It's chipping away. It's probably about 8% of what the syndicate currently does. We'd like that to be north of 25, maybe even 30% in a few years' time. That's our aspiration. But we're going to be doing it because we'll be getting cheaper products to end clients because the distribution is more efficient. We're taking frictional cost out. We're stopping, eradicating non-value adding work. So a customer can then choose if they want to come down a distribution chain which has got several intermediaries in it. That's absolutely fine. We're delighted with that. If they want to transact business more directly because there is a platform like OPAL which allows that to happen and charges perhaps slightly cheaper prices, then we're quite happy with that. In the world of modern commerce, we as consumers, each of us, whether we buy books online or clothes online, sometimes we like to go to a store and sometimes we buy things online. And it should be no different in the world of insurance. Our customers should be able to say, I want to go down a specialist route or I want to buy more directly. And we should be, and at Aegis we are totally agnostic as to how people access us. All channels are open, all options are possible.
So thank you, Nigel, for that. I'm sitting in a backdrop of the underwriting room in London. It's an atrium about 13 stories tall, and it's been closed since early January because of the pandemic. But for hundreds of years, of course, people have associated Lloyd's with face-to-face trading. And that will absolutely continue going forward. But what that underwriting room looks like when we get back into EC3 is going to be a different story. And just what you're describing there, Nigel, talks about a whole way of doing business with the Lloyd's market perhaps people in the audience weren't familiar with. It isn't just queuing up. It isn't dragging paper around. For some of the more complex risks where you've got 9 or 10 syndicates on there and you as the risk manager and the broker want to look in the eyes of the underwriter who's going to pay your claims and have this deal understood explicitly and get it done in a day or less, that's always going to be happening. But there is such a wide opportunity digitally that doesn't displace brokers, actually increases the flow if done right. So everybody, including the policyholder, is in a better place.
Yeah, I agree with that, Hank. I mean, I've always said, and I was a broker for 30 odd years before I came to Aegis just over 6 years ago. Brokers go into Lloyd's because they can, not necessarily because they need to. I still love going into Lloyd's because the underwriters, your friends, the environment's very nice. You don't want to be sitting behind your desk in the office all day long. So you go into Lloyd's because you can. People will, in the future, will only go into Lloyd's because they need to, and they will need to. Of that, there's absolutely no doubt. But oftentimes they don't need to. And allow that business to flow into the market cost effectively. That's really what I'm saying. And then we can focus on where the face-to-face transaction is value adding and important. And a lot of the work that's being done by Lloyd's, and I think you maybe touch on it with the Future at Lloyd's work under Blueprint 2, will be pointing in that direction.
Yeah, Hank, I think just as an interjection there, I think there's been quite a bit of chat about sort of the death of the underwriting room at Lloyd's and the rising of the virtual underwriting room at Lloyd's. I think we've all got to be quite careful about that. I think it is as Nigel says, it's the customer and the retail and the wholesale broker who will make their choices, and Lloyd's is and should be, and Aegis London is and it will be open for business by whatever form a customer or broker would wish to approach us. There will be those specialist risks which will require that face-to-face negotiation, and there will be avenues whereby we can deliver products cheaper to our clients in a more efficient way digitally.
Yeah, thank you, David. And Nigel mentioned the future at Lloyd's. The corporation of Lloyd's, who I work for and Enya works for, it has this massive undertaking to make the market the most technologically advanced marketplace in the world. And one element of this has been a transition last year to new ways of working. So we currently in the UK are open for all classes of business in the virtual underwriting room. That ultimately will be a global access point for risk managers, brokers, CFOs of middle market companies. Anybody who wants to be in the underwriting room virtually will be able to do that from wherever they're sitting in the world. That's pretty exciting. There are a lot of people, of course, who still want to do it face-to-face in London, but this will give us opportunities to continue to grow however people want to do it. So I'm glad that we got to that conversation. We do have a couple questions from the audience, but I'll quickly just move before we take those into the final questions really for each of you. What do you see as if you had a wish for 2021, what's the one thing that you'd like to see happen either to the global insurance industry, to the Lloyd's market, to Aegis? I'll leave it up to you. Dave, I'll start with you.
Shall I go first?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about 2020 first. And a lot of people would say, "Oh gosh, we're hugely thankful for leaving 2020 behind us." So I found 2020, it's been tough. It's been difficult for all of us in a remote working environment, but it's also answered that question of the art of the possible, and our abilities to be able to trade and our abilities to be able to deliver much needed products and services to the market. But do you know what? I'd like to get back to an office-based working environment, if I was honest, in 2021, because I think however good Zoom and Teams and everything has been for us, our ability to collaborate with each other and innovate with each other and deliver on our ambitious plans for the year, I think we can serve ourselves and serve our brokers better by being back in EC3 and getting on aeroplanes and going out and visiting brokers and visiting clients. So we're going to have to wait a while for Boris to unlock us all. Boris Johnson, that is our wonderful Prime Minister, but we'll have to see. I'm hoping that before too long, we will all be out there greeting and meeting each other again.
Thank you, David. And over to Alex from a risk taker's perspective as Chief Underwriting Officer.
So, as David has been genie to my Aladdin by granting me a return to office, and that's in the bag. We've got that one, but I would extend that, because I think when we do return to EC3, Lime Street, that we take the momentum of the accelerated change that we've all talked about, what we've learned, what we've achieved through the pandemic and the enforced environment, and that we push that on and achieve that greater efficiency and the greater resilience of the London market, because it is vital for us. I mean, we're a single platform Lloyd's insurer, so we're not transacting business anywhere else other than through our Lloyd's platform, and it's key for us that Lloyd's remains relevant and remains at the forefront of the specialty insurance market. And in order to keep us there, right at the front, we need the things that Nigel and David have both referenced, which is that greater efficiency, that greater access. And I feel that we've picked up so much momentum through our enforced environment of the last 10, 12 months, and that we just need to push that on. That's what I hope for.
Thank you, Alex. And there are a couple of underwriting related questions I'll come back to you from the audience on. So don't go away. and over to you. Love to hear your thoughts on what this year holds, what your dream is.
When I first thought of this question, because Hank mentioned this a week ago to allow some time to prepare, my first response was, I want to watch a live game at Wrigley Field. I'm a Cubs fan. I've been there many times, and if I can get there this year, it'll mean that the world has gone back to some degree of normality. So that would be my slightly flippant wish for 2021. My insurance wish for 2021 is simple. I'd like to see Lloyd's restored to overall market profitability. We as a syndicate have been profitable in every year of the past 15 years, I think. And as we've said earlier, we're a top quartile performing syndicate, but we're only as strong as the whole. We're only one constituent part, and we're only as strong as the whole. And what I mean by that is, if Lloyd's has to be introspective and focuses on what's happened in the past and tries to correct the problems of that past by looking so closely at underwriting performance, eradicating weaker classes, wheedling out syndicates that hasn't performed properly, we're not going to be seizing the opportunity of the future. And it's only by restoration to profitability that Lloyd's will be able to focus solely on the future and the opportunity that we've been describing here this afternoon, and truly deliver to customers what they need and future-proof our marketplace for the 21st century. So a restoration to Lloyd's of profitability as soon as possible to allow us to deliver what we know this market is so capable of.
That is job one. You're right. Performance, Nigel. You know, if you're not making money consistently, people are less inclined perhaps to listen to you. So that's a very good point. I'd like to just go to a couple of questions here. There's tricky ones. Somebody wants us to opine on the future of New York labor law. I suppose that's something we can, but I'm going to chicken out on that for a second because that's getting really into the weeds, and that could be a long drawn out conversation. So apologies for that. But this one is some you might welcome. Is Aegis focused on any particular industries, and when does it make sense to approach Aegis? You might want to get into a couple. You know, I know energy is your how you started.
Alex, why don't you take that one?
Sure. I mean, look, Hank, as you've referenced, our parent and capital provider is deeply involved in the energy industry. It is an industry that we at the syndicate are involved within, but by no means anything like to the degree that A, we were, or B, our parent is. And so that's where the expertise lie. And we'll look at a broad range of industries and a lot of it on what class of business. I mean, I'll just give one example because we haven't got time to go through all 23 classes, but in our US liability book, we're quite heavily focused in the transportation sector, be it trucking or rail. And that is something we have a lot of expertise and history and experience in. So, those would be just two areas that if you haven't talked to the underwriter that is Matt Yeldham, who heads up our casualty, clients definitely should, because he's got a vast wealth of experience and knowledge in those areas. So, I mean, we are, as Nigel and Dave, we all try and portray, we're a fairly broad church. We welcome everybody. But I don't think we overvise in any, that's the work of our parent.
Hank, can I just add to that? It sort of talks to the previous question that you didn't want to answer, which was about New York labor tort reform. One of the things that we have done is provide solutions to that. And again, Matt Yeldham is that underwriter who is certainly in the New York area, one of the kings of construction liability insurance in the New York boroughs and areas around New York.
And I think it's worth a quick plug for Tuesdays with Lloyd's next Tuesdays. Matt Yeldon will be live in this space this time next week. So if you want to ask that question of Matt next week, we can put him on the spot because he'll be doing the slot. I think that's right, Enya, isn't he? I think he's on next week with you. That's
perfect. And yes, and he can always be accessed directly via email as well.
Yeah, sure.
WhatsApp or however people want to reach him, right? We said there are a lot of ways into London, specifically into Aegis. We had a question about cyber as well, given all the data breaches and the high profile losses we've seen recently, what's Aegis's view on cyber this year?
And that's a good topic. We do write the class, but it's one of the few classes of business where we don't employ a team of underwriters. So we are very supportive of the Lloyd's model of the consortium, where we lend our capacity support to an expert in the market. And cyber is one such class where we do that. So we don't have our own team of underwriters. So we write it, if you like, through a third party. I will say it is one of the classes that we expect to, if you put all our classes in percentage growth, it's right up there because we didn't do very much of it. And then we're now doing a bit more of it. So we've been relatively, benign participant probably over the last 3 to 4 years in cyber, but it is growing. But as I say, we've yet to put our own team of underwriters on the ground in recent years.
So that leads me just to an observation, which again may be clear to many people in the audience, but perhaps not to others. One of the advantages of the subscription market is it enables underwriters to delve into new classes of business, not at the very front edge of the sharp edge of the spear, but in a perhaps a little bit safer place. Maybe cyber isn't the safest place these days, but it allows you to develop experience because all underwriters talk to each other. They share not specifics of claims if they're not actually involved in the tower, but they do talk a lot. They learn a lot from each other, and so in any given month, there could be opportunities that your broker can bring to you, your London broker, that may not have been there 6 months ago because of the evolving nature of appetites in the London market. So I would encourage everyone to keep that in mind. Something that was said no to 6 months ago by a specific underwriter may change 6 months later if it's within the business plan. You want to talk about renewable energy a little bit, because again, we think of traditional energy businesses, but renewable is the way of the future for so many of us, and you're a player in that, certainly. I guess Alex or
well, maybe I should have a go at this one because Aegis, our mutual parent, is actually the largest insurer of renewables in North America. And certainly they are very keen to support any renewable products or any customers who'd like to access them. I think they'd very much welcome that. We at Aegis London participate on some renewable energy business through our underwriters in London. And again, that can be accessed through your broker of choice.
Okay, thank you on that one. I'm going to go to another question again, and this one tracks with the innovation edge that Lloyd's has. Some people out there think that innovation is no longer a strength of the Lloyd's market, but there are a number of avenues, particularly through our product innovation facility, that has over 150 million pounds of capacity dedicated to new and innovative ways of handling risk. Are there classes of business that you want to talk about today, David, Alex, or Nigel, that you haven't yet considered but might be on the drawing board? Sort of peek behind the curtain?
Well, I mean, I think that, the truth of the matter is, Hank, that we're looking at new classes of business all the time, whether we're doing those within our existing lines of business or whether people are approaching us to take part. I mean, and we recently joined the initiative around the storage and transportation of the COVID vaccines that are going around, which I think there was quite a bit of successful press around that Syndicate in a Box initiative that was recently launched. So we do look at these. I think within our classes, I mean, Nigel and I were just talking this morning about potential new products that we might be able to put down our Opal platform. But really, that's going to take a combination of our underwriters and also our customers coming forward to us to tell us what they need, and for us to put our capital and capacity behind those. So there's no big reveal. There's nothing coming down the pipe of an earth-shattering nature. But we've got a thoughtful bunch of underwriters that do want to listen to customers, that do want to listen to brokers to help develop solutions that answer their needs.
I think can I just follow up that one, Hank, a bit, because just to pick up what Alex has said. I don't think there's a sort of silver bullet saying we've invented this great new product that's going to wow the world. I think it'll be how we deliver what we've currently got. Part of that will come from methods of distribution and technology. That is a key piece of innovation for us. But equally on the product development side with Opal, it's to say to our broker partners, what are your customers telling you they want? And how can we put that together for them? David alluded to this right at the outset, where he said, we want to find out what people want to buy. We're terribly good at, underwriters can be terribly good at saying what they want to sell. We actually need to listen, what do customers want to buy? So if we're developing a new SME product in Canada, let's say, well, we know we can do E&O business in Canada, and we know we can do GL business in Canada, and we know we can do property business in Canada. Why don't we package them all up together, sell them in one online product and get it to our customers, because that's what they want to buy. And particularly as we're predominantly an SME syndicate, SMEs like to buy their business bundled up. They want to make it easy because they want to concentrate on what they're good at, what their core subject is. So we will be looking to listen to brokers, listen to customers, and if they're saying this is what we'd like to buy, our job is to put it together and then sell it to them. And down a medium like Opal, so innovating in terms of the product bundle and innovating in terms of the distribution method.
Yeah,
Thank you, Nigel.
Hank, I might just briefly add. Insurance is not a complex industry, and at its best, it is when it is its most simple, and these sort of field of dreams sort of build it, and they will come. Innovation that seems to be the penchant of what is going on in innovation at the moment in insurance. I don't think that's for us. I think, as Nigel says, we want to build and enable a way of getting our products to market that we know there's a demand for, we know they sell, and we know that we can do it in a better way.
So that probably answers the question that somebody had about, other than the wind deductible buyback on Opal, what else is available? It could be as easy as just going on the platform and taking a look. Is there a way people can find that? And just in further to the conversation around you're seeking opportunities to solve problems, how would a risk manager, a policyholder, a broker get to you with a challenge that perhaps they haven't found a solution for in the U.S. market?
Nigel?
Yeah, well, the first approach, really, we would recommend that you came through a broker in the London market. They know us well. We've got relationships with all the London market brokers. So if you're struggling to access us, the best way to come is through a Lloyd's broker, and Lloyd's can point you in the right direction for us. We're all contactable. There is an Aegis website. We're contactable through that if you need us. But the chances are we would point you in the direction of a Lloyd's broker, because they are the best people, we think, to represent you. As time goes by and we build relationships and we can get products more cost effectively to you, then the need for that broker to be involved day to day may not be there. But I very much doubt that people would want to come to us without some involvement from a broker. I think over time, the London brokers will take a lesser role in the administrative side of the business, the grungy, frictional cost side of it. And I hope that they want to be advocates for their partners, whether they be the insured or the producing broker or something like that. Broker strength is in terms of distribution and advocacy. They don't want to be doing administrative stuff, and neither do we. So if people wanted to access us, by all means, drop us a line. We'd help you, we'd advise you, we'd give you some thoughts and ideas, and probably point you in the direction of a broker. But the most important thing we would say is, if we couldn't help you, we'd tell you very quickly.
Thank you, Nigel. And I just want to clarify one thing. I think in that question I threw in the kitchen sink, I mentioned policyholders, and that is not something we would advocate, that a policyholder go direct to London. It's strictly if you're a retail agent or broker, ideally you would go to a US based wholesaler or cover holder, MGA with Lloyd's binders. If you are an MGA seeking a way into London capacity, a London broker would certainly be the right avenue in most cases for that. I'm just so careful because on the surplus line side, we have to be extremely careful about directly selling, if you will, to policyholders. Everyone on the line will know that. So my bad on that. But anyway, in any questions, you can get to a Lloyd's America colleague. We're in several cities. Our website has our information. We'd be happy to help you as well. So I've got one last question about Latin America. Do you write any renewable projects in Latin America? And if not, is there scope for that in the future?
Certainly on the casualty side, that is something we have looked at. We're in the process of forming if you like, not a think tank or a working group, I haven't got to come up with a good name for it, on renewables, so that we can draw down on the experience that we've got on the underwriting side in the parent, and we put interested underwriters in the syndicate together, and that is actually being led by one of our casualty underwriters who specializes in the Latin American space. So that is something that we certainly have seen. I wouldn't call it a specialism, but it is certainly we have something we have entertained.
Okay, thank you, Alex. We do have another couple of questions, but just I don't want to run over, of course, mindful people's time. Somebody had a question about electric batteries, and what do you see as the future of those, and how broadly will they be applicable across the marketplace? I would say probably globally.
Who wants to take that one? I'll have a good crack.
Come on, David.
You can see that there is going to be this massive growth in electric batteries and in the use of electric batteries, and that's going to come with all sorts of insurance wants and demands. Whether it's for the transportation of them, whether it's for the disposal of them, whether it's for the use of them, and it's up to us as innovative insurers to react to being able to provide products to meet those demands. And where better to come than somewhere like Aegis London, who will, if they haven't got that product in place already, will be able to find a solution for you.
Excellent. Thank you, David. And we've had a broad range of attendees today, from retail and wholesale brokers to MGAs / cover holders, a few risk managers, quite a range there. Some underwriters, certainly from London. Pretty much everybody you'd expect would be on one of these, even some claims folks. I'm sure they're very interested in how Lloyd's is developing its claim proposition through our Future of Lloyd's. And we will have a future Tuesdays with Lloyd session on the claims progress we're making. There are a lot of ways where we're looking to, especially after major events in the U.S. market, to streamline the adjusting and payment of claims. So all good news on that front. But at this,
can you allow me one shameless?
You'd like to? Yeah, Nigel, go ahead.
Can you allow me one shameless plug before we go?
Of course. Yes.
And this is something I do wearing an Aegis hat and wearing a London Market hat. I'm the chairman of the Lloyd's Market Association Delegated Authority Committee. And we have a piece of work going on at the moment, which you can find out a lot about it on the website lmadare.com. That's lmadare.com. And the whole essence of this is we're trying to redesign the way delegated authorities are done in the London market. And we're doing it from the outside in, with people who are cover holders, retail brokers, wholesale brokers, telling us what they'd like. So there's a huge piece of work going on January, February through March of this year. If any on the call would like to join in, take a look at the website lmadare.com, get in touch with us and contribute to the way business is done in the future, because that's what it's all about, shaping the business around our customers, not telling our customers how business is going to be done. Thank you, Hank.
Very well said. Thank you, Nigel. David, Alex, anything you'd like to leave us with before we go to Enya?
No, I can't.
No, I think, thank you all very much for giving us the opportunity.
Yeah,
I thoroughly enjoyed myself. It's good to see it looks as if it's getting dark in Scotland already.
It is,
And thank you, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed listening to us, and we appreciate all of you for your business and the contributions you make to the success of Aegis London.
Here.
Excellent. Thank you to all three of you. Really appreciate your time today. And Enya, over to you. And again, anybody has any questions, you can always go to Aegis London, or you can come to us here at Lloyd's in the US, and we will be happy to help you out. We're all here to help you. So thank you, everybody. Over to you, Enya.
Thank you, David, Alex, and Nigel, for your leadership and for your insight into Aegis London. Thank you, Hank, for moderating. And thank you to all of you in the audience for being part of this ongoing conversation. So please be sure to join us next Tuesday. We'll kick off the first class of business roundtable on Casual Day. As Nigel mentioned earlier, we'll feature 3 leaders in the marketplace: Joe Murphy of Chaucer, Ali Timpson of AXA XL, and Matt Yadam of Aegis London. So it will be moderated by Sarah Lin, who is president of RT Specialty of San Francisco office. So when our session ends today, in brief, a 4-question survey will pop up on your screen. So please take a few moments to fill it out as it helps us prepare for the future programming. Again, let's keep staying connected, and thank you again. Until then, we'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay well.